everybody, welcome to Wild Boy Movies, the place to talk movies, and today we're going to be reviewing Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the sequel to Blumhouse's most successful horror movie. Right now I'm going to have some information up on screen for you to read, like director, runtime, and PAA rating. All of that will be up on screen for you to read right now. But be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below your thoughts for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. But without further ado, let's get right into the pros. Alright, starting off, I really gotta go ahead and praise the Jim Henson Creature Shop who made the animatronics for these FNAF movies, because once again, just like the first movie, they did a great job with making the animatronic suits for the movie. And I'm not just talking about the toy animatronics that we see, but also the withered animatronics as well, because both the toy and withered animatronics look really good in this movie. I also really like the set designs for the pizzeria that we see in the movie, which in the trailers is revealed to be the original pizzeria, and that's only made a lot more better in terms of like the set designs for the pizzeria, with having seen the Darko video where he went behind the scenes of the set of FNAF 2 and seeing all of that set for the pizzeria. It looked very good, and I really like what they did with the pizzeria in the first movie, and I think they did an even better job with the pizzeria set for this second movie, because I was pretty amazed to see that they actually had an actual working water ride for this pizzeria. Like, that was some very cool touches that they did with the pizzeria set. Also, if you're a fan of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, you are definitely going to be able to catch some of the Easter eggs that they have hidden in the movie, and I thought they had a plenty of good amount of Easter eggs in there, and there were definitely some stuff that had my theater going crazy, because yeah, my theater was insanely packed. Like, almost every single seat in that theater was taken and sold out. But yeah, there's still a lot of fun Easter eggs that they have for the FNAF fans to spot when they go see this movie, and some that I didn't even catch the first time around. I saw whenever people were pointing them out. And yeah, if you're a fan of FNAF, I definitely think that you'll be able to catch a lot of those Easter eggs that are hidden within the movie. I also thought the cast in here did a pretty good job. You got the returning characters of Josh Hutcherson as Mike, Piper Rubio as Abby, and Elizabeth Lail as Vanessa. I thought they did a pretty good job in here. And you also got some of these other newcomers in here, like McKenna Grace as Lisa, one of the paranormal investigators that we saw from the trailers. I thought she did a pretty good job in this movie. Theo Brains, who you might remember for being in Chucky Season 1 as Junior Wheeler, and in the most recent Final Destination movie, also did a pretty good job, even though those two characters, Lisa and this other paranormal investigator guy, in fact, all of the paranormal investigators had very minimal screen time in this movie. And I gotta give it to the voice actors who voiced the toy animatronics as well, because yeah, Kellen Goff did a pretty good job as the voice of Toy Freddy. I thought he did a great job with that voice. Matt Pat, who voices Toy Bonnie, I'll admit, I did not even recognize that it was Matt Pat. If they have not said that Matt Pat was the voice of Toy Bonnie, and I heard that for the first time, I would not have thought that Matt Pat was the voice of Toy Bonnie. But I gotta give props to Matt Pat for doing something different to give Toy Bonnie a different voice instead of just sounding like it's just Matt Pat. And I really like that he tried to do that, even though it was taken aback when he first spoke in the movie. But honestly, the most surprising voice actor in this movie was Megan Fox as Toy Chica. Like, I honestly was like very kind of like skeptical on Megan Fox as Toy Chica, just because I kind of was thinking that whenever they announced her as Toy Chica, I was like, no way, this has to be real, but it ended up being real. And I thought she did a very good job as that voice of Toy Chica, so she definitely surprised me with her portrayal of the voice of Toy Chica. But the biggest pro that I can give Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is that Blumhouse went ahead and took the criticisms that were in the first movie where it didn't have enough scares or it didn't have enough lore, and they went ahead and gave us a lot of scares and a lot of lore in this second movie, and they listened to the fans. And I really liked how they went ahead and did that, because this is essentially a Five Nights at Freddy's movie that we all kind of wanted with the first movie, but kind of didn't get. But I still ended up really liking that first FNAF movie, and yeah, I think they did a lot better here with this second movie, because they do deliver on a lot of scares in here. And I think the best part in terms of like the scares, in terms of what I think could be like the scariest in terms of what people think, is the marionette, because there are a lot of creepy things that are involved with the marionette in this movie, the puppet. And I also like all of the new lore that they went ahead and added to this movie universe, because we've veered away from the game continuity and lore from those video games, and the movies are kind of like their own thing, separate from the games and not connected at all. And I really liked all of the lore that they went ahead and introduced for the movie universe, and how it could play into effect in the third movie, if we even get the third movie, based on what they're teasing. Which, yeah, I'm very much excited for the third movie to happen, if it ends up happening, based off the little teasers that we get towards like the very end of the movie. And I cannot wait to see it, because I think it will be the ultimate, the most perfection of what a Five Nights at Freddy's movie could be. So yeah, I ended up really enjoying the second Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I do think that it is better than the first movie, only slightly, similar to how I felt with the Black Phone 2. And I think that if you're a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, you're definitely gonna go ahead and enjoy this movie. But there are some things holding it back, that some FNAF fans might not like this movie, and definitely things that casual viewers will not like. So let's go in and get into those cons. Alright, starting off, I kinda wish that we got a bit more of Matthew Lillard as William Afton in this movie, because, yeah, I really like what Matthew Lillard did with the character of William Afton in the scenes that we got of him. Like, I really like that flashback scene that we do get to see a bit of in the trailers, where he's in that yellow rabbit suit. I really like all that stuff, especially and in the dream sequences that we got. I really like all the stuff that we got with Matthew Lillard, but I kinda wish that we got a little bit more of him, maybe about the same amount of screen time that we got as we got in the first movie with William Afton, but just kind of spread throughout the movie. And I know that's kind of like on purpose for them to do with all this William Afton stuff, because I believe since that William Afton is kind of like the Voldemort of the FNAF series, where he's a lingering threat in like the early entries, but becomes a major threat later on. And yeah, I kind of would have wanted a bit more of William Afton, but unfortunately we just don't get that much at all. But I am very happy with all of the stuff that we got with Matthew Lillard as William Afton in this movie, though. Like, I really think that he was perfectly cast in that role. The same thing can be said with Skeet Ulrich's character in this movie, which I was very excited to hear that Skeet Ulrich was going to be in this movie, because with Matthew Lillard also being in it, it would sort of kind of be a reunion of Billy Loomis and Stu Macher, the two Ghostfaces from the first Scream movie, which was always the funniest part with those castings. But I really was hoping that we get a bit more of Skeet Ulrich in this movie, and unfortunately we didn't get that much of him in this movie. Now, I'm hoping that if we get more FNAF movies, I'm hoping that he's a bit more involved in these movies and has a much more larger role in comparison to what we got in this first movie. And while this isn't really a con to me, but it will be a con to those who are not familiar with Five Nights at Freddy's, it's all of this lore dump that they have, where you have to really be familiar with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise in order to understand everything that is going down in this movie. And those who are not familiar with the lore are going to be very lost and confused, and are going to probably end up leaning towards not liking this movie, which is why the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes is so low, like 11, 12, or 13%. Like, that is how low that people are just not liking the FNAF movies, just because they have so much lore. And it could be very confusing to those who are not familiar with the franchise, and it feels like that these movies are made for the fans. And as someone who is familiar with some of the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, I ended up really liking it, but I do acknowledge that this is sort of like a con thing to those who are not familiar with the franchise. But look, if you're a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's and know the lore and are very interested in this movie and even like that first movie, I definitely think that you're gonna end up enjoying the second movie, and I really cannot wait to see what they end up doing with that third movie, with all the stuff that they're teasing. I know I mentioned it before, but I'm just very excited for what they end up doing with that third movie based off what we ended up getting towards like the very end of the movie, and I'm really hoping that we get that confirmation of a third movie happening, because it's basically like a movie that I honestly really would want to see, because I think it would be ultimately the best movie of this entire series. But for now, with the second movie, I thought they did a pretty good job with delivering a worthy sequel to the original FNAF movie that we got just a couple of years ago. So for my scorecard, I'm gonna give Five Nights at Freddy's 2 5 stars, with the score out of 10 being 10 out of 10, with the percentage being 100%, with a grade of A+, with my final verdict being, if you're a fan, you'll really enjoy it. But that was my review for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I want to hear from you guys. What are you guys' thoughts on this movie? Go ahead and leave your thoughts down in the comments section. And while you're at it, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. And have a great day.